In this class we're going to look at the mission of the business. This is normally caught up or presented in the mission statement. This is normally summarized into the mission statement. We're looking here at strategic planning and setting objectives. Objectives set out what the business is trying to achieve. So having objectives is very important. It gives a sense of direction to the business. Without objectives, the business does not have a focus. It doesn't have an objective to aim for. So objectives are important. It's what the business is trying to achieve. Objectives can be set at two levels, at the corporate level or at the functional level. At the corporate level, it applies to the whole business. And at the functional level, it applies to some aspect of the business. For example, marketing may have sets of objectives. Personnel or HR may have certain objectives, and the research department may have some, and so on. So we have two levels at which objectives can be set, the corporate level or at the functional level. Let's start by looking at the corporate level objectives. These are objectives that concern the business or the organization as a whole, as I said earlier. This is what applies to the whole business, the corporate level. And examples of corporate level decisions could be setting a target return on investment. So setting a target return on investment is a corporate level decision. It looks at all of the assets of the business and tries to get some return, some fixed return on the assets. Or it could be to develop an internal research and development department. That might be a corporate level objective. An internal research and development department which will spread across the whole business. Now, functional level objectives. These are specific objectives for production activities. Examples of functional objectives might include reorganizing the production process for one of the lines of production. So it's much smaller than the corporate one. The corporate one applied to the whole business. The functional level objective is looking at some aspect within the business, reorganizing production into a given set of products or in a certain manner, changing the production in a certain way. So it's much more, if you like, micro. It's within the business. It could be to reduce energy costs by X% in the coming year. That could be a functional level. It could filter down to all of the departments, and budgets changed so that all of the departmental managers try to be more efficient in their use of energy. Now, both corporate and functional objectives need to conform to what's known as the SMART criteria. SMART is just an anagram, and this set of criteria is held to be good as a way of directing objectives to ensure that corporate and functional objectives are well designed and well thought out. You see the word specific starts with the letter S, so SMART. So we're now on to the first one, which is specific. The objectives should be clearly stated. Clearly, if the objectives are confusing, that's not a good idea. If they're confusing, they can't be followed and they can't be achieved. So the objectives must be clear. Measurable, M. For monitoring purposes, an objective should be capable of measurement. If it's not capable of measurement, we don't know when it's been achieved. So measurement is important. It doesn't necessarily mean it's measured on some sort of engineering or mathematical scale. It could be has the task been successfully completed? Yes or no? If yes, that's measurement. It's done. But as far as possible, objectives should be measurable. If they're not, there's no idea as to when they are complete, when they have been achieved, or when they have failed. They need to be measured. They have to be achievable. A. Objectives should be realistic, allowing for the available resources. So it should be realistic. If the objectives are not achievable, then there is no point in trying to achieve them. It can't be done. So clearly, objectives should be achievable. They should be capable of being achieved. Otherwise, the whole exercise was pointless. R for SMART, so it's for relevant. The objectives should be relevant to the people responsible for achieving them. This is important for incentive purposes. So it should be relevant. The people who are trying to achieve the objectives should relate to them. They should know that they're achievable and they're measurable. They're clearly stated. So, and they're within their expertise, within their interests. So they are motivated to achieve them. So the objectives are relevant to the people who are trying to achieve them. If they're not relevant to the people trying to achieve them, they'll have no interest. They will not be motivated. And the last letter from SMART is T. So this is time bound. They should have a realistic time scale. There's a set of objectives. Perhaps if they're very detailed, they need longer time. The time scale for the achievement of the objectives should be realistic. It should be worked out carefully and be realistic. Those are the SMART criteria for objectives. Now let's move to the mission. A strategic plan starts with a clearly defined business mission. A clearly defined brief statement as to what the business is trying to achieve. The business statement. So this is the mission of the business. Mintzberg defined a mission as follows. A mission describes the organization's basic function in society in terms of the products and services it produces for its customers. It describes the organization's basic function. That's the mission. The basic one. What is it? What's the essential of what the business is trying to do? And it doesn't mean that it's trying to just produce products. It means what's its place in society as well? What's its wider mission? What are its green credentials? What's it trying to do in terms of the environment? What's it trying to do in terms of health and safety and the welfare of its workers and ethical considerations regarding the inputs it's using and so on? So it's a much wider concept. A clear business mission should have each of the following components. It should have the purpose of the business, so it should say what the purpose of the business is, the scope and strategy of the business, the standards and behavior of the business, its rules and its principles, if you like, and the values, the belief system of the management. What do they believe? Let's start with the purpose of the business. So the purpose of the business, which set of stakeholders does it aim to satisfy? There are many stakeholders in the business. There are the shareholders, there are the workers, the trade unions. The local community is a stakeholder. There's even the general taxpayer may be a stakeholder. because the company is contributing towards the national exchequer through taxation. So there are many stakeholders involved in the business, and which set of stakeholders does it aim to satisfy? Where is it aiming exactly? Who is it aiming to satisfy? It should set out the commercial rationale for the business. Why does the business exist? Why is it there? So a brief statement saying why the business exists. Now the scope and strategy of the business, well, it defines two areas. The products or services that it offers, and also explains the competitive position of the business. So look at the scope and strategy of the business. It includes the products, what products are being made, and what's the competitive position of the business. Where does it stand in relation to the competitors? It also should mention, somewhere along the line, the core competencies and advantages that it enjoys. What unique advantages does the business have? Why is it better than the competitors? So some mention should be made of that. A business's strategic scope defines the boundaries of its operation. What exactly does it do? Which markets does it operate in? And does it overlap other markets? And what are its position in all the markets that it affects? And generally speaking, it's management who defines what the scope of the business is. The examples of the boundaries of the business, well, the geographic location of the business or of its market, that's a clear boundary. The market in which it competes, that's a boundary. So if it's making a particular item for the car industry, well, you know which market it is competing in. What's the business practice? What type of business is it? Is it service, production? And what are the mores or the conventions of that business? What's its production method? That might define its boundary. Is it heavy engineering, light engineering, electronic engineering? Is it woodwork? Is it building? What method of production is used? And what's its ethical stance? What does it believe is good business practice? How does it treat its workers? What's the working environment like? How does it project itself into the wider community? How is it seen in the wider community? These are all issues that talk about the boundaries of the business. Now I know that the mission statement is a short statement, so it's asking a lot. So careful wording of the mission statement needs to bring in many points. So wording a mission statement is a very tricky, complicated process. Nonetheless, let's move on to the next one. The policies and standards of behaviour. The mission needs to be implemented into everyday action. So having derived a mission statement, it needs to be seen to be performed. It needs to do something. It just can't be nice words. It has to do something. It has to be seen in practice. For example, if a business mission states that the business will adopt green technology, then it should show how it is implementing this policy. Not merely words, not just saying it. It sounds politically correct that businesses should help the environment. But if it says that in its mission statement, then it should do it, and it should show how it's doing it. Now let's move to values and culture. The values of a business reflect the belief culture of the management. So what does the management believe? What do the managers believe? How do they see the workers? How do they see remuneration or the working practice of the business or working conditions? How do they relate to these? Now these will include relationships with and a view of the customers. How do they see the customers, in fact? Do they respect the customers? Or do they perhaps look down on the customers because they themselves are selling a cheap product? It's important. What's the loyalty and commitment of the staff to the business? How committed is the staff to the business? Are they loyal to the business, or do they see it just as a job and they want to move on into a better business or into a better position? Are they content to work there? Do they like it? Do they relate to the business? Creating a common purpose in the business. What do we mean by common purpose? Well, the old adage is everyone singing from the same hymn sheet. Well, everybody believing that the product is a good product, working towards promoting the product, working towards promoting the image of the business, loyalty to the business, not denigrating the business outside of the workplace. What exactly is the commitment of the workers to the business? And what does the business do to foster a good attitude amongst the workers? So that's important. And recognizing the social responsibilities of the business. If it's operating vehicles, making sure that the vehicles are properly maintained, they're safe on the road, not just meeting the requirements of law, but they are well within the spirit of the law, and that the drivers are recognizing the social responsibilities of the business. It's important that the statement should recognize what are the social responsibilities. What are the green credentials of the business? Does it pollute the atmosphere? Is it a danger to the community? Does it affect people adversely living in the area? Does it make contributions to local charities, or does it provide significant employment within the area and support the local area? So these issues should be incorporated in some way into the objectives, the statement of the business. Now, the role of the mission statement in marketing planning. Well, a mission statement can help in three ways. It provides a focus for the marketing plan and shows how the marketing plan can help fulfill the mission. So the mission statement is the focus for the marketing plan, and the marketing plan can then be developed around it. It gives it focus. It provides a framework for monitoring decision making to ensure consistency within the chosen sector, within the chosen mission. And it provides an incentive to implement the marketing plan. So the mission statement is what everything else hangs on. It's an important statement, a short statement about the business, but because it is the essentials of what the business is, everything else can hang on it. So the marketing plan, for example, is consistent because it meets the mission statement. It meets what the objective of the business is. The marketing plan it can be implemented because it is practical. The mission statement is a practical statement about what the business is and what it's trying to do, and the marketing plan is therefore practical as well. It relates to the mission statement. That's the function. It has focus. It's based on that. So the mission statement is a short statement. Now, in other videos in this area, I'll give an example of mission statements. But for the moment, just consider it to be a short statement which outlines, delineates the essential functions of the business. And as such, it forms the core of the business. It's what everything else is based on. So therefore, everything else, all the other functions, have focus because they are linking back to the to the mission statement. Right, so that concludes this talk on the mission statement. As I said, there are more in the area which will give practical examples and will take the concepts much further. So for the meantime, thank you for watching.